And then, almost at the same time, you've got the whole Israel-Gaza conflict blowing up. It's like one fire after another. Did Woodward give any insight into how Biden was handling these two, massive international crises all at once?
What?
Welcome to Book Haven.
All right, so today we're diving deep into, war. Bob Woodward's latest. This one takes us right into the heart of Biden's first term, all the global stuff, Ukraine, obviously, Israel, Gaza, all that. But it doesn't shy away from the politics back home either. Should be a wild ride.
Yeah, it's interesting. The thing that really hit me reading this was how Woodward sets the scene right from the get-go with the January 6th riots. Talk about starting a presidency with a bang. It really feels like that event, kind of looms over everything that follows.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, how do you even begin to think about unifying a country, leading a country after something like that, especially with, all those questions swirling around about democracy itself?
Right, and that's exactly what war gets at. Like, how do you even function as a leader, let alone an administration, with those kinds of divisions, those wounds still so raw? Woodward really pulls back the curtain on the internal struggles within the Biden administration.
And then, as if things weren't complicated enough, you've got the whole Russia-Ukraine thing exploding. What did Woodward have to say about Biden's response to that, especially in those really tense early days?
It's fascinating. He takes us right into the Oval Office almost. You get to see those debates, the decisions, the weight of every single choice. There's this one part, for example, where they're deciding what kind of military aid to give Ukraine. It's all about finding that balance, right? Supporting Ukraine, but not, poking the bear too hard. So they go with these very specific weapons, Javelin anti-tank missiles, Stinger anti-aircraft systems. Defensive, primarily, trying to avoid direct escalation with Russia. It's high-stakes poker, basically, and Woodward really captures that tension.
And then, almost at the same time, you've got the whole Israel-Gaza conflict blowing up. It's like one fire after another. Did Woodward give any insight into how Biden was handling these two, massive international crises all at once?
What struck me was just the sheer amount of diplomacy, the constant back and forth. I mean, Biden and his team are on the phone, nonstop. Israel, Palestine, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. They're trying to, stop the whole region from going up in flames while also dealing with this horrific humanitarian situation in Gaza. It really shows how interconnected everything is and how, any one of these things could spiral out of control so easily.
Yeah, it's a lot. Global crises, domestic politics, and then, trying to figure out who Biden is as a leader in all of this. It's like all these different threads in war kind of weaving together.
Exactly. And one thread that keeps popping up is the shadow of Trump, right? Woodward makes it very clear how Trump's still a factor, especially with, all the stuff about the 2020 election still going on. It creates this atmosphere of distrust and division that makes it so much harder for Biden to do anything, really.
Right. It's like you're constantly fighting fires on multiple fronts. How does Woodward actually portray Biden, his leadership style in the middle of all of this?
One thing that comes through very strongly is his belief in diplomacy, in dialogue. Even when, everyone's screaming for him to get tougher, to take a hard line, there's this really telling anecdote where he's talking about Putin. There's all this pressure to just, isolate him. But Biden's insistent on keeping those lines of communication open, trying to exhaust every possible option before things escalate. And, it's very much in line with his whole approach to foreign policy, right? This belief in the power of personal relationships, of talking things through.
It sounds like he's walking a tightrope, trying to hold on to those democratic values, those principles, in a world that feels like it's constantly on the brink of, something.
Yeah.
But also trying to, deal with these real-world crises that are happening right now. Does Ward talk about how he deals with that, personally?
It does. Woodward definitely doesn't shy away from showing that human side. There's this moment where Biden's reflecting on the weight of his decisions, acknowledging all the lives that have been lost, the responsibility he feels. It makes you realize, it's not just about politics and strategy, it's about people.
So it sounds like war leaves us with a lot to chew on. These massive events happening around the world, the constant pressure cooker of domestic politics, and in the middle of it all, you've got this guy, Biden, trying to figure out how to lead.
Yeah. And it's not like Woodward gives us all the answers. If anything, he leaves us with even more questions. Like, what are the limits of diplomacy in a world that seems to be getting more and more violent? How do democracies survive, when they're so divided, when those core values are constantly being challenged? These are questions, that we all have to grapple with.
It's a good reminder, I think. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, but ultimately, the choices our leaders make, the actions they take, have real consequences for all of us. And maybe that's what Woodward's really getting at. Like, this is a call to action. It's time to start thinking seriously about the kind of world we want to live in and how we're going to get there.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, there you have it. Our deep dive into Bob Woodward's War. Definitely a book that will stay with you. If you're interested in understanding this moment in history, in all its complexities, it's a must-read.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those minds engaged and those conversations flowing.
Always.
Grab War by Bob Woodward, now on sale for just $21.68. Don't miss this chance to build good habits and achieve remarkable results. Click pre-order now today.
Like and subscribe for more Bookhaven podcasts.